Lori, the New York primary is also called the Wall Street primary. The New York Times actually called it that today because, of course, we're the financial capital of the world, voting today. But look, a lot of the candidates, in an effort to garner hot votes, are bashing Wall Street. So we thought, let's bring in a former Wall Street head honcho who's not bothered by that. He's bothered by something else. Joe Grano is the chairman and CEO of Route 9B Technologies and former head of UBS Payne Weber. You're not bothered when they rip Wall Street bankers, are you?
Well, no, but it's revisionist history because the government is not taking any responsibility. And they started this by imposing restrictions, or letting people buy homes that they couldn't afford. And that started with Clinton in 1999.
Well, putting that history aside, there's something else that does bother you, that you get really concerned about, that you believe the candidates are not even scratching the surface of. Let's talk about that.
Well, I think it's leadership. I mean, here we have 307 million people in the United States, and look at our choices right now. I think the number one, or at least close to the number one priority of a president is to coalesce the country. All I see is divisiveness. All of these ideological positions that are taking place, not only with the president, but with the Congress and these candidates. It's the wrong message. The American people deserve better, in my opinion.
Well, there's a lot of bickering about insignificant things.
Yes.
There's a lot of pandering. You would expect that. But you have the president going to Saudi Arabia and Germany right now. We've got a problematic economy that's growing, albeit extremely slowly. So what is the number one thing we need to tackle right now and at least have these candidates start talking about that they aren't talking about?
Well, from my perspective, I think we have to deal with this $19 trillion of national debt. And they keep on talking about too big to fail. The only institution right now that's too big to fail is the U.S. government. We've gone from $8 trillion to $19 trillion in national debt in the last 10 years. That's not sustainable.
Well, and when they score all of the budget plans and the tax cut plans, at least on the Republican side, they all add to the deficit over 10 years.
And if you listen to Bernie Sanders, he'll spend $15 trillion more. It's impossible. We need a balanced budget. We need a candidate or a president and a Congress that wants to support that. But
Are you one of these guys who believes that, as many of these candidates do, that cut taxes and magically revenues will grow and magically jobs will increase?
That's a supply-side argument.
Right.
I think you need a balance. I think affluent people would accept 5 points jump in their tax rate as long as the government reduced spending by 5 points. And not use the new taxes for additional entitlements. Use it to get this national debt down. I think people would jump in and lock arm in arm in the sunset and get that done.
From your experience, Di, we're looking at a market that is very close to all-time highs. The S&P came within, what, about 20, 30 points shy of the record all-time high earlier today. Does that worry you, or do you feel that this is an appropriate response to companies that are starting to grow once again?
I think the economy is anemic, and I think some of the stats are a bit of a head fake. If you look at the revenue line, very few corporations are hitting the revenue line. They are hitting, in some cases, or most cases, the earnings line. But that's coming from a couple of ways. Zero cost of money, stock buybacks, and, of course, the productivity they gain with all the layoffs. So I think it's not a sustainable situation. 60% of S&P earnings are outside the United States. You have a worldwide recession going on. We're not going to be impervious to that.
I need to just quickly ask, because it's your business now at Route 9B, encryption, and of course all of the worries about hacking.
Yes.
Would that start to inspire job creation if the government jumps in and starts to pump up a little bit of that?
Well, it's a specialty profession. You really need to be trained. Matter of fact, it's the Achilles heel in corporate America today. My CTO back at UBS was never trained in cyber. If you look what happened to JP Morgan Chase, despite spending $300 million, they got exploited. So it is the major threat to the United States today, not boots on the ground, taking down the energy grid or taking down DTC, for instance.
Joe Grano, great to have you. Joe is the former UBS chief, and here comes the closing bell. Dow 18,048. How about that?